let me see. Let's select one. It has pelvis and spine already on it. Pelvis and spine, thigh and pelvis. So it looks like we can still move. We need to move these right here. This one is a pelvis and spine. This one does not have the spine. Does this have spine? It does. So our spine is a 1.5. So let's just add a spine 1 of 1.5 to that. Make that even. This one should be 1.5 as well. All right. We could put a little bit of influence in there. That might be too low. I don't think we need to. Once we start animating, after you do the range of motion is make sure it's not too broken with how your weighting is. But once you start animating and getting them into like these very dynamic poses, you're probably going to want to go back and go, let me skin this a little bit differently. So that's not a problem. You can always go back and do that. And because we're referencing our character into our scene, that happens all the time. Let's look at the sideways and see how that looks. Yeah, see, it's pretty smooth. All the blending we did already kind of keeps that smooth. And you'll never really probably have them over that far. So let's try something. Let's try something else right quick. Let's go back to our object mode. Let's unhide our joints again. And what we want to do is on the in-between frames, add a little bit more rotation on these upper joints. So on our sideways. So in between, so like on 70. We can rotate more here. Or let's see if we rotate on this one. We can rotate more like that. So we can see just how much that rotation will be. Right now it was uniform from before because we selected all the joints and just rotated. But what I want to do is try to push it a little bit more. And so we go to the other side. And it'll be the same thing. That doesn't look bad. You can see everything looks pretty smooth. All right, let's work on the clavicle and look at getting this motion to look right in the front and in the back. Because in the front, what you'll notice is as you bring your arm up, all of this kind of raises up. A lot of times in games, you just see the character like this that goes up, but they'll break this joint right here and just go straight up, but the clavicle won't move up. A lot of times you'll see that when people are using mocap, they don't go in and fix the shoulders. And then even with certain animations that people do, they don't push the clavicle enough. So what we want to try to do is on this bone right here, in the mesh where you can see it, let's go, we can leave this turned on. Here's the clavicle bone for the character right here. So you can kind of see that right there. There's like this bone. You can see how it's textured. So for that clavicle bone, we want to make sure that that bone maintains its shape and doesn't really break. And then actually, just like in real life, this bone right here, it moves as a solid and it just rotates. It actually rotates from right here and in the center. So like, if you go dimensionally into the body, but you can feel the little knots right here. That's a part of where it hinges on there as well to like rotate. So let's start doing that. So we can delete those keys off of the spine. So let's select our spine and do what we did for the legs and delete all those keys. We don't need them on there anymore. So same thing, select all the keys from the highest frame down to the lowest so that we maintain where our 0 frame is at. If you delete 0 to up to the other frame, you're going to preserve the bend, and you don't want to do that. Then you have to go in and re-zero out everything. So all right. So for the clavicles, let's select both clavicles, go to our rotate. All right, good, that rotates correctly. Let's set a key. Let's go to our frame 20, and let's rotate our clavicles up and set a key. Let's copy and paste our 0 frame over to our 40. And then we want to rotate the clavicles down a little bit in a more relaxed pose, and set a key there. So there's our clavicles. The other thing we want to do is we want to rotate forward and backward. So let's paste our key that we have from our 0 frame back on here. And let's go to frame 80, and we want to rotate them forward and backwards. So let's go backwards first. Let's paste our key on 100 of our 0 frame. And let's go forward now. Let's go to 120 and let's rotate forward. All right. Again, this is low poly, so there's only going to be so much we can do to preserve the shape, but we should be able to do a pretty good amount. So our clavicles are up. Let's hide our joints so we don't have any selection issues. We can still do this by hand. So what we want to do now is we want to take our time looking at this. So we want this to be manipulated by the clavicle. And what we're pretty much doing right now by nudging these around is we're kind of sculpting out what we want the shape to be preserved as. So let's see. So let's select this. And what we're going to do is we're going to put this a little bit more to our spine 3. To see where we can share this a little bit more. It gets pretty extreme. So let's nudge this so you can see it goes down. And what we're trying to do is just maintain some of that shape more when it goes up, so it's not as extreme, because in real life it's not that extreme that it moves as you get closer to here. You know, it's rotating, but it's not like a huge difference as opposed to when you're out here at the extremity of the joint and this goes up. This just kind of moves just a little bit. So let's keep nudging this. This is a 50-50 right now. So this is 65-30. All right, let's grab these right here as well. Let's bring those down. This needs to come down too. All of these need to come down. So let's continue on the side of the shoulder. And we're working on our right shoulder right now. Let's grab the other vert next to that too. So we got these 3 verts right now. These will need to come down. We're on frame 15. And then you can just use your nudge once you set your weight and bring them back. You just don't want them clipping into the neck too much. So there's only going to be so far that we go anyway. So let's go down to that next row of segments or vertices. 1, 2, 3. We'll just do one more right here too. That one's already blend it a little bit, but let's take that one off actually. So now we can scrub again. And we can start to nudge this down so it's on spine 3. And we'll keep going down here. This one can be spine 3 or upper arm, but we're just going to continue to spine 3 for now. Upper arm is going to just kind of destroy this. It's going to actually make it fold in more, and we can use upper arm if we want to sculpt it more, but for right now we're trying to minimize the clipping when we go to an extreme, like we have the arm all the way up. So let's scrub up a little bit more. And there are some very sharp angles when you move your arm up anyway in real life. Let's get some of this neck right here. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops. We're going to add a little bit of influence here so it's not such a harsh. So as this goes up, let's say that this is getting moved by our right clavicle. Just nudge it a little bit. All right, so it looks like the way this model is set up, we need to do a selection set on here. So not a selection set, but use our selection tool and select these instead of just clicking on them. Because clicking on them, it looks like it's not, while the mesh is combined, it's not a closed mesh. So, and that's fine. I think that's just something I overlooked when I put the pieces together. Usually things like this are set up because you want to swap the heads out. You can have different heads. We're going to leave it like this for now. But to do our selection, let's go here to wireframe mode. And we just want to, these are the 4 we got. We just select them like that. Now that we have them selected, we can go back to smooth surface mode. And now we want to go back to clavicle R. Scrub forward in your timeline a little bit. And now we want to just nudge these over. You don't want them to go too far because it's going to look super awkward. Looks like we can change these a little bit more. And these are going to our spine 3. So let's go back up and select our spine 3. Always double check to make sure you have the right joint selected, because once you start clicking on things on here and you have the wrong one selected, you start messing up stuff, it can get a little confusing. So let's do a little bit on one more row up the neck so it's not as harsh. We don't need it to be too crazy. Just move it a little bit. So we probably just need one that's neck, and we want this to be clavicle. So let's go back down to our clavicle R. All right, and let's do maybe 1. Maybe 1 is all that's needed. Let's move the arm up a little bit more. Yeah, that's good. What we're going to do too is let's move our arms up as well. It's very rare that you'll see this while you're doing that. So let's just take our arms and move our arms up